Hi, I'm Sam West, and the intention behind this short video in the next 10 minutes or so, that perhaps you or someone you know will find some value in it. That's my hope. I spent the first 13 years of my life in Cairo, Egypt, the place where I was born. A childhood I vaguely remember. What I do remember is that I never felt that I did fit in. I mean, I was the odd one. I would listen to the Beatles, not knowing who they were or how famous they were. No one at my age knew the Beatles. I would watch a TV show from the 60s, Flippers, about the dolphin, and that's when I fell in love with dolphins. I mean, till this day, I love dolphins. Who doesn't? I would spend most of my afternoons after school fantasizing about maybe one day I would have a house with a pool, or maybe a house with horses like I've seen in the Western movies. At the age of 13, I made a very conscious decision that I would move to Los Angeles, California. And I would leave the only world I've known, my parents, my siblings, my friends, my school, and live with my oldest sister and her husband. They had just immigrated a few years prior. My mom agreed. My sister and her husband agreed. My dad, he didn't say much. That life-changing decision, as good as it was, it came with a price. On a very subliminal level, I began to practice to disconnect, to disassociate myself from people or situations that would trigger me. I basically ran away. And I didn't know really any of this till later on in life. In 1991, my mom had gotten really sick. So I had gone back to visit for 2 weeks. I returned to LA. She died a week after. I was haunted for years by guilt and shame for the simple fact that during my visit to her, those 2 weeks, I wasn't fully present. I was disconnected, I was disassociated, and the only thing I wanted really to do is to come back to my comfort zone, my happy place, LA. Even though I'm a very extroverted person, but by that time, disconnecting and disassociating was second nature to me. No one taught me differently. My sister and her husband weren't exactly role models when it came to behaving otherwise. Not to be a victim, but that's all I knew. It's now 30 years later and I have not been back. Since then, my siblings have passed. They've had children that I've never met, and they've had children that I've also never met. And early this year, after years of therapy, I had this aha moment that disconnecting and disassociating didn't really serve me. What will serve me is that I need to go back and be present and feel the place where it all started. This is not rush hour. This is not even happy hour. This is every hour, all day, every day. The country was ruled by a dictatorship named Abdel Nasser from 1954 to 1970. The day he died, I was in a movie theater watching the movie Oliver Twist. I will never forget that day. The country recovered with President Anwar Sadat from 1970 to 1981 when he was assassinated. He's responsible for the peace agreement between the Israelis and the Egyptians at Camp David with President Jimmy Carter. He's considered a legend, and his legacy lives on till this day. I grew up in a small building, a humble apartment, till at the age of 13. My view was my entertainment, especially when I was not in school. I lived with my dad, my mom, my brother, and my 3 sisters. in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, probably around 800 square feet. The building still looks and feels the same, airy, cold, with exposed plumbing. The neighbors pass on their apartments to their kids generation after generation. No one ever moves out. It costs way too much. I went missing at the age of 6. I was found hours later hanging out at this market down the street from where we used to live. We didn't have much growing up, but I was put in a private school to the age of 13, and this used to be my playground. I loved my school. It's where I first learned how to speak English. In fact, my English teacher was the one that introduced my class to the movie The Sound of Music. I knew every song by heart, had no idea how famous it would become. The first and last time I walked this bridge, I was with my dad. I must have been 9 years old. And that's when I realized I'm afraid of heights. And definitely the concept of love locks did not even exist back then. This would be the first and last time I did something with my dad. He wasn't much of a doer. He wasn't much of a dad. My mom, she ran the entire show. Christianity was not celebrated very much. Things are different now after the 2011 revolution. In fact, every church is protected by policemen outside at all times. Photography and videotaping are not allowed. Islam is a different story. I was having lunch with one of my nephews, Muhammad, and his dad and his sister Sally. And out of nowhere, he asked me, "Do you want to go visit your mom?" And my reaction was, "No." And he said, "Okay." And then I thought about it. I wasn't at her funeral. I'm here now. Why wouldn't I want to go? But that was my cue. Here goes the disconnect again. But not this time. So I asked him later on, does he still want to go? He said, yes. I said, let's go. It turns out this is where my mom, my dad, my oldest sister, the one that raised me, my middle sister, are buried. They don't use headstones, at least in this case. My brother is buried elsewhere, and now my latest guilt is that I have not seen him all these years, and not before he passed. I have never seen traffic like I have seen in Cairo, and today was a close call for a car collision. Luckily, nothing happened. One thing I've learned on the Strip that I'm really sensitive to noise. For most people, they would dream of this moment and what it represents. But with all the noise and the crowd, I got triggered, and all I wanted to do is to go somewhere quiet where I can get myself regulated. With over 10 million people in population in Cairo alone, they still managed to be humble, courteous, genuine, and very generous. Meet our fob. He doesn't speak a word of English, but boy, he went the extra mile every day when I needed directions, help, where to go, and what not to do. Meet David. He's 24 years old. He runs the hotel from midnight till 9 a.m. and then runs the restaurant from 3 p.m. till 9 p.m. His dream is to move to Canada or to USA one day. I hope he does. As nerve-wracking as it is and weeks of anxiousness, I finally get to meet my nieces and my nephews and their kids and know about them and their life and how they live. It was very exciting. And just like that, it's time to go home.
Today, I bless all in my life, every single soul, Mother Earth, all life. I ask for all my relationships with others to be transmuted into love. I ask Great Spirit to show me all areas where I can be more courageous, to communicate, open, heal, show myself, to be aligned to my truest self. I ask for the gods and goddesses of compassion to awaken my deepest love. As I bring love to my shadows, I am liberated from my stories.